Hey everyone, before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more stories like this. They say jokes always carry a little truth. But that night, when my wife laughed and said she missed her chance to marry rich, I realized some jokes don't come from humor, they come from hidden regret. I'm David, 38 years old. I run a small but steady construction business in Denver. My wife, Laura, and I have been married for 7 years. We weren't perfect, but we had stability, a nice home, 2 cars, and a routine that worked. Or so I thought. Laura was the kind of woman who liked the finer things. Designer bags, fancy restaurants, vacations that looked good on Instagram. Even when we couldn't always afford them. She wasn't greedy. She just loved the idea of living beautifully. I tried my best to keep up. I worked long hours, saved where I could, and made sure she never felt like she was missing out. But somewhere along the way she started comparing. Her college friends were marrying CEOs, lawyers, doctors, men who posted pictures from yachts and vineyards. And Laura noticed. Every dinner party, every social gathering, the conversation always turned to who bought what, who moved where, who just got promoted. I'd laugh along, pretending not to feel the sting of those comparisons. But then one night, a quiet Friday, just the two of us and a bottle of wine, she said it. "You know, David," she chuckled, swirling her glass, "I should have said yes to Jason back in college. He's a millionaire now." I looked up from my plate, expecting her to laugh it off. But she didn't. She just smirked, waiting for my reaction. I forced a laugh, pretending it was just a harmless comment. "Yeah? Guess I should have married a lottery winner too." She giggled, shaking her head. "No, seriously. Can you imagine? I'd probably be living in New York right now, shopping instead of worrying about bills." Her tone was playful, but her eyes said something else. A glint of truth she couldn't hide. That moment, that one careless sentence, replayed in my head for days. I didn't show it, but something shifted inside me. It wasn't anger, not at first. It was disappointment, the kind that sits in your chest and refuses to leave. Because that night, while she laughed about a life she never had, I stopped laughing completely. The next morning, Laura acted like nothing happened. She hummed while making coffee, scrolled through her phone, and asked if I could pick up dry cleaning on my way back from work. But for me, something had changed. It wasn't just what she said. It was what it revealed. I started watching her differently. Not with suspicion, but with awareness. I noticed how she lingered on social media, liking posts of couples in luxury vacations. I noticed the hesitation when friends asked her what I did for a living, as if construction business didn't sound good enough. I wasn't angry. I was just quiet, detached. At work, I buried myself in projects. Late nights became routine, not because I had to, but because the silence at home had turned heavy. I'd come home, she'd be watching some reality show, and we'd exchange the same tired small talk. Then one evening, while I was fixing the faucet in the kitchen, I overheard her talking on the phone. Her voice was soft, nostalgic. She laughed and said, "Yeah, Jason's living the dream. Penthouse in Manhattan, private driver, everything." Then she sighed and said, "Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if I'd said yes." She didn't know I was standing just around the corner. I didn't confront her. I just stood there, holding the wrench, feeling like someone had quietly drained all the warmth out of my chest. That was the night I stopped trying. I stopped bringing her flowers on Fridays. I stopped suggesting date nights. I stopped filling the silence she created. A few weeks later, my company landed a massive contract, the kind that could change everything. It was with a large development firm that needed long-term project management. The deal would double my income, maybe even triple it within a year. But I didn't tell Laura. Not yet. I wanted to see something first. So I stayed quiet, went about my work, and waited. Days turned into weeks, and still she never noticed. Never asked how things were going. Then one evening she walked into the living room, wine in hand, and said, "David, don't take this the wrong way, but sometimes I wish we had a more exciting life." I looked up from my laptop and smiled faintly. "You mean a richer life?" She froze for a second, caught off guard. Then she laughed lightly. "You said it, not me." That's when I knew. She wasn't joking anymore. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to her steady breathing beside me. I realized something harsh: love dies quietly. It doesn't always end with screaming or betrayal. Sometimes it fades under the weight of small humiliations, careless words, and the laughter that cuts deeper than anger ever could. The next morning, I went about my routine as usual. Made coffee, left for work, came home late. Laura didn't notice the envelope I left on the counter. Not until I told her to open it. Inside were two things: a copy of the new contract I'd signed and a real estate brochure. A luxury lakefront property, already under my name. She blinked at the numbers, her mouth falling open. "David, what is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. I looked at her calmly. "It's my next project. I just closed a multi-year deal. That property, it's where I'll be living." Her brows furrowed. "You'll be living? What do you mean?" I met her eyes. "You once said you missed your chance to marry rich. Turns out you didn't miss it. You just laughed at it." She stared at me, realizing what was happening. "David, come on, I didn't mean it like that." I interrupted softly. "You did. Maybe not with malice but with truth. You've been embarrassed of the life we built together. You thought stability meant mediocrity, but you never understood what real wealth is: peace, loyalty, and respect." She stepped closer, her eyes glistening. "Please don't do this. We can fix this." I shook my head slowly. "You can't fix what you never valued." I walked to the door, paused, and looked back at her one last time. "I used to laugh with you, Laura. But that night, when you joked about missing your chance, I stopped laughing. Because I realized you weren't the woman I fell in love with. You were just someone waiting for a richer version of me." She covered her mouth, tears streaming down. "David, I'm sorry." I smiled faintly, but it wasn't cruel. "I know. But sorry doesn't rebuild respect." And then I left. A month later, I moved into my new place by the lake. Quiet, peaceful, no laughter echoing off the walls, just calm. Sometimes I'd scroll through my phone and see photos of Laura, out with friends, smiling like nothing happened. Maybe she found what she was looking for. As for me, I found something too, the kind of wealth she could never measure. Because real success isn't proving someone wrong. It's living well enough that you never have to explain yourself again.